decapitation without dread. I'm Nasty Neil.
This is Annabelle Lecter.
That would make me terrible, Troy.
And joining us here right off the bat is modern-day icon of horror from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects. I can't name every movie he's in. We have Bill Moseley on the line.
Hey, all right.
Excellent. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Awesome. That's the end of the interview.
I'm staring into space, looking out on Los Angeles, California.
Oh, see, we're all the way on the other side. We're in Massachusetts.
Well, that's a beautiful thing too.
It is.
It's very nice.
That's where I went right after I graduated from college. I drove to Martha's Vineyard and spent the summer working in Larson's Fish Market in Menempsha. And let's see, then I went to Boston to start my adult life.
Huh.
Nice.
It is hard to drive to Martha's Vineyard.
I drove as far as I could, and I got onto the ferry.
That's Neil's neck of the woods.
Yes, on the Cape. Uh-huh.
Yep. Yeah, I love the vineyard.
Yeah.
That's, in fact, where I lost my virginity.
Whoa.
So Massachusetts is very important.
You know what? I think a lot of us can say the same thing.
Yeah, I'm hoping to one of these days.
Eventually.
Get some time, buddy. Take your time.
Now, I actually heard an interview where you said that you saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original movie, for the first time in Boston.
I did, actually. I saw it in the Combat Zone. I don't even know if that's still there anymore.
No.
There was an old theater called the Paramount Theater. And, it's one of those down on its luck theaters in the Combat Zone, which must have kind of, come in, after the Paramount had its glory days. And I think I remember right next door there was some kind of a little peep show, and I think I remember not the same time I saw Chainsaw, the original Chainsaw, but I remember some guy coming out of a booth with a German Shepherd, and the little guy at the door kind of giving me a funny look. So this was the Combat Zone, man. Chickens in the window of the Chinese shops, and one afternoon, I had actually seen the title Texas Chainsaw Massacre on the marquee of I think it was some kind of a drive-in theater out by North Billerica, where I used to work for the Andrews Gunite Saloon Pool Company. And I would drive around. I was kind of the special agent for Ed Andrews. And I remember just driving one day and coming out of a forest in my car. On a road, of course. And there was this title, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I just thought, God, what the hell is that? I got fascinated. I just thought, whoa, man, what are they doing to the public? And when I saw that it was playing on the tail end of a double bill with Enter the Dragon, Sunday afternoon,
nice.
Paramount Theater, Combat Zone, in 1976, I said, I got to check it out. And I did. I went down by myself, sat with the crowd. The crowd was a boisterous crowd. They were yelling at Bruce Lee to kick their ass. I'd never seen a Bruce Lee movie before. So, come on, Bruce, kick his ass. And it was a lot of fun, a raucous crowd. And then it's time for the second feature. And from the opening shot of the weird tortured kind of a violin note and a slow strobe of some kind of rotted corpse. I guess that was Ed Neal's little, Polaroid flash bulb. I was like, what is this? Uh-oh. And everybody, I swear, the air went out of the room. And I don't think I heard another peep out of anybody for the rest of the movie. Just was like, whoa. We were all into something very serious. And we knew it, and there was nothing to do except just hang on and try to, stay in your seat.
Yeah, other than, being a little kid and being scared of anything, that was the first horror movie that, like you just said, it was just so surreal to see it. And just, there's nothing like I'd ever seen before in my life that could even touch it. So it
Nothing.
remains one of my favorites because it was just tears your mind up when you see that for the first time. If you
Tore my
haven't
brain up.
exposed, yeah, if you haven't seen anything, I know that now there's so many more movies that are, it's different. There's a lot more movies that are very violent and graphic, and it's more mainstream than it was. There's more of a horror culture, but then there's nothing like that.
But yet it still holds up.
Nothing like it. And you know what? I had been in college and not quite a hippie. I just never really got into washing dishes or anything. But I whatever the hippies do. I like the free love part. I didn't like the communal living. I think that was it. But I had read Carlos Castaneda. All the Don Juan stuff about the guy that goes into the Yaqui Sonora Desert in Mexico and does all this power stuff with that with the brujo and all these kinds of crazy spirit ideas. And I really came out of college thinking of myself, that wasn't my major, but I fancied myself able to communicate with any human being, and we're all one, man. I'd read the soap label on the Dr. Bronner's Castile soap, and the whole deal. And I came out of that movie, Chainsaw, thinking, these are completely alien creatures, and they're evil. Meaning the Sawyer family. I mean, it really freaked me out. I mean, on a deep, almost philosophical, theological level, it freaked me out. And it wasn't. And I would just try to get rid of that feeling, try to heal it, try to get out of it for 12 years. And,
wow.
Let's see, 76, so it was 10 years. For a whole decade, I would keep watching that movie, trying to make it, so familiar that it wasn't scary.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got the part of Chop Top and showed up in Austin, Texas in the spring of 1986 in the parking lot of the Brook Hollow Motor Inn, where they put us up for a Chainsaw 2. And I was there just kind of going, what the hell's going on? They had shaved my head, which completely disoriented me. I'm standing in the parking lot, just kind of, going young, and all of a sudden this car pulls up, and out of the car steps Jim Seedow, the cook in the original Chainsaw. And he got out of the car, he's a very ebullient guy, and he got out of the car, and I went, "It's the cook!" And he went, "Hey, how's it going there? Hey, boy, how you doing?" And in that moment of just like that connection, I just went, wow, not only, this job is going to work out, but all of a sudden I just felt like, completely different. I felt like, wow, I am no longer afraid because now I'm a member of the family.
Mm-hmm.
Totally
the pressure must have just dropped away. As soon as you make like a connection with someone with humor, it's so much better. Like you could have met and everybody's very professional and done a great job. But when you've got, especially for that movie, I mean, it's crazy. And you've got that humor on the set. It just must make so much difference.
Well, just seeing the guy, and notice that, Jim Seedow didn't need makeup.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he basically, is what he is. And he didn't need makeup in the original Chainsaw. He didn't need makeup in Chainsaw 2. Just seeing him and just going, oh my God, that's one of the guys. Yeah. It's like he's alive. He's stepped off the screen. There he is right in front of me. And realizing, oh my God, I'm playing his brother. It's so funny because flash forward many years later, and I got a call from the director of the Texas Chainsaw 3D, which was originally titled the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D, but apparently the word massacre didn't go well with. They took some survey or something. Meaning, I guess, Lionsgate, and it didn't test well. So they just dropped that. So it's Texas Chainsaw 3D, and I got a call from the director, and he said, "Hey, I just wanted to call and welcome you because I'd been hired to play Jim Seedow's part in Chainsaw 3D." And he said, "I just wanted to welcome you to the production." I said, "Thank you very much." And he said, "Well, how does it feel to be playing the father?" And I said, well, actually, the cook is the brother. And he said, nope, it's the father. And I was about to say, what? And something in my head just said, Bill, shut the fuck up. Shut up. Shut up and nod and say, hey, it feels great. Can't wait. All right. Looking forward to it. And, and I hung up the phone, politically correct. And I just thought, it's the fucking brother, not the father.
What's out there now?
That's kind of vague. It's kind of vague because, you think, because there are really no parents.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about the Sawyers. There's grandma and grandpa. There's the little, mummy dog upstairs in the house in the original Chainsaw. And then there's the hitchhiker. There's the cook and Leatherface. And, we just, I mean, if you listen to the dialogue, both in Chainsaw and Chainsaw 2, you just realize that the cook is the oldest brother. Mm-hmm. And then the twins, Hitchhiker and Chop Top, who was over in Vietnam during the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And then there's the baby, and that's Bubba, a.k.a. Leatherface.
And it's funny because they call
mom and dad.
They call each other brother. My brother, blah, 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 blah. And Jim's character the cook never does that. So that, I could see where people wouldn't necessarily know. It is very big, but.
I guess so. Except, he just goes, look what your brother did to the door. And, also the shit that we give to Jim Sedow, in a Texas family like that, if you called your dad names like that or gave him any shit, you would be killed. So you're not doing that to your dad in a Texas family. So
true.
Those are the four brothers. And, we know in Chainsaw 2 that even though, he got run over by, I think the truck was called Black Maria, whatever the truck was that runs over the hitchhiker at the end of the original Chainsaw. We see, the hitchhiker is, he's dead and well as Nubbins in Chainsaw 2 that I carry around we call him the Muppet, basically the dead body I carry around.
Yeah, which got in trouble recently on the way home from Mad Monster, I saw. He was calling him the TSA. Mm-hmm.
Yes, that was great publicity for the owner of Nubbins.
Yeah. What was that like, by the way, putting the makeup back on for Mad Monster doing the photo ops as Chop Top?
It was fun. It was, it was good. I mean, I don't know if I, felt Chop Top. Mm-hmm. Not that I was really necessarily expecting to. I was happy to do it. Nora Hewitt, who was the face-off winner who did the makeup, did a great job. And just meeting her was a lot of fun. She's awesome. I have the costume. I do have the costume, so it was fun putting that back on. The teeth are a little gnarly. I think there's some black mold in the Chop Top teeth. So I was pretty glad not to have gotten, some kind of Ebola from putting those back in. Uh-huh. But all in all, it was, it was a fun experience. Originally, of course, this time I didn't shave my head for the photo op. So, I did have a bald cap. Mm-hmm. Originally, of course, when I got the contract to play Chop Top, I remember my agent at the time called up and said, you got the job, and I was like, wow, that's pretty awesome, And she said, and they want you to shave your head, and I said, yeah, okay, fine, yeah. And she goes, well, I mean, I told them that was going to really, put a damper on your career for, between 6 and 8 months. I went, oh, that's funny. And she said, so I got them to pay you $5,000 to shave your head. I started laughing, because of course I would have shaved my head for, I would have paid them,
Mm-hmm.
But this time, I wasn't as willing, lo these 30 years later. So I ended up, getting, I had a pretty short haircut, but I did wear a ball cap in it. It felt good. One of the options I had was that once the photo op was over and we had taken 100 pictures or however many people showed up, there was a suggestion that maybe I would want to, in makeup and wardrobe, go back to my table at Mad Monster Party in Phoenix during the convention and, sign autographs and sell posters or whatever I was doing at my table. And I said, absolutely not. I'm not going to do it.
I would think it'd be
the reason being that many, many years ago, there was a convention. It was a Fangoria convention in Pasadena, which is right next to Los Angeles here. And I thought that maybe to spice up my, sales or whatever, that I would have my buddy Todd Bates, who loved Chop Top and was is a great makeup guy, could do the makeup. I thought it would be cool to have him come and actually apply the Chop Top makeup as I'm sitting at my table, during the convention hours. Mm-hmm. So people could walk by and they could see, one stage of it, and then maybe they'd come back later and I'd be a little more progressed toward Chop Top. But, and that all worked out fine. But when I finally, got my teeth in and I was like, thumbs up, good to go, you are now Chop Top, sir. What I found was that when I'm at a convention, I'm really like a merchant. Mm-hmm. When someone's at a convention and they're signing a picture for $30 or they're bargaining over something you've brought, or maybe you've got 3 items and, you're going to get a discount, all that kind of stuff is really very mercantile. And then when you're in, for me as an actor, if I'm in character and Chop Top costume and makeup, I'm Chop Top.
Yeah.
I think it would really be a bummer to be, there's Bill Moseley in this makeup, really kind of ignoring the makeup to, give you a deal for, 2 for $40.
Yeah.
I just
it's like if
like
you're
I was saying that I was trying to do that in character.
Because if it's like
hey, did you pay me? Hey,
then they think you're kidding, and
yeah. So I just said, I don't think so. So they got me out of makeup, and I, went and put back to my table.
Well, you can't be around children and dress as Santa and not actually pretend to be Santa. It ruins the whole effect.
Absolutely. Unless you're bad Santa.
True.
Yeah, you're Sal Lizard out there. Now you were a fan of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. How did you get into Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2? Did you just go to like a reading for it? Or?
No, I didn't. Actually, in my 10-year effort to try to get that spike out of my brain, that spike of terror, I actually was one summer. I was living in New York City for many years, and one summer, just to get out of town, and to get healthy, I went out to work on a ranch in Wyoming, up near Green River, Wyoming. And anyway, I was working on this ranch, the Box R Ranch, and I was just a grunt, basically digging holes and baling hay and doing all that stuff. And I was working with a kid who probably wasn't much more than 16 years old, who was a sugar freak. I had never encountered a real sugar freak like that. I mean, that's somebody who, drank bug juice for breakfast and Frosted Flakes, and then had some fudgesicles and some pie. It was just constantly banging the sugar. And what would happen is when we would do manual labor under the Wyoming sun, he would start to sweat and shake and go into what I called sugar deliriums.
Wow.
And so he would start kind of, I guess it's the American equivalent of speaking in tongues, but what he would do is he would start singing snippets of top 40 songs, and he would do cartoon voices, and advertisement jingles. You know, he would just like all this stuff would be coming out of his mouth. It was pretty outrageous. But you know, I had worked with him enough and, you know, gotten used to it, so I would pretty much turn a deaf ear to him.
Sounds very entertaining.
One day we were working, and all of a sudden he's going, Captain Crunch, you know, and doing this crazy stuff. And all of a sudden he goes, Texas Chainsaw Manicure, and then just continues to blather away. But I heard that, you know, and I'm digging a hole in the dirt, and, you know, all of a sudden I hear that, and I just go, whoa. And so I went back to the bunkhouse, you know, good standard cowboy lodging. And I got out my notebook and I wrote down the Texas Chainsaw Manicure. And I just had a vision of a woman going to a beauty parlor, going in, you know, getting her hair done, sitting under the dryer, you know, and being asked by the beautician, you know, anything else. Yeah, I think I'll have a manicure. And, you know, calling for a manicure. And I had a vision of the sliding steel door, which was so scary about the original chainsaw. And Leatherface coming out with a smoking saw, you know, heading toward this woman under the dryer to, you know, give her a manicure. And so I kind of sketched out this, it was like a 5-minute short film, I guess. And I went back to New York when my stint on the ranch was over, and gathered some friends. And we ended up renting a place called Sonia's Hair Fashions out on Staten Island. And got about $1,000, you know, just got some different things. Got a bouncer from, you know, a popular nightclub, a, you know, huge power lifter guy who's going to be our Leatherface. And, you know, somebody made a mask, and, you know, somebody found a chainsaw. It was kind of like, you know, hey, I've got this, you've got that. And we all got together in 1984, and we made the Texas Chainsaw Manicure. And I ended up, you know, so in fact, the woman goes in, she gets her hair done, she sits under a dryer, she wants her manicure. Leatherface comes out with a smoking saw. The woman is screaming. He's like sawing her fingers. It looks like you just imagine she's just got nothing but stumps. And she passes out from fear. And they you know, the hairdresser kind of slaps her face, brings her to, and she's like, oh no, oh. And she looks down. She's got like a perfect manicure. And so that's kind of the gag. And then she walks out of the beauty parlor to her husband, presumably, who's waiting for her in a pickup truck. And she goes, look, honey, I got the best manicure ever. And then we cut to, there I am behind the wheel of the truck. I'm her husband. And I am dressed and made up to look exactly like the hitchhiker. And I go, hey, that's great, honey. We should celebrate with some head cheese. And I had actually gone out and bought like some head cheese, which is, you know, frankly, not really a dramatic piece of meat. But, you know, what's dramatic about head cheese is, you know, knowing what goes into the making of head cheese. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I had this like nondescript hunk of head cheese. And actually in one take, I even licked it, which was really a bad idea. And anyway, so there was the Texas Chainsaw Manicure. I had gone out of pocket. I had actually gone into debt to make it. And I was living in New York at the time, and I tried to sell it to Saturday Night Live. There was a comedy show on ABC called Fridays, which was the Saturday Night Live competition. Nobody seemed to want it for one reason or another. No Saturday Night Live stars, too long, done videotape, not film, you know, all these different things. So basically what that meant was that I, you know, basically went to work as a waiter, you know, to try to make the money to pay back Broadway Video. That was, you know, Lauren Michaels' production company. And they're the ones that had, you know, had been very excited about editing, you know, letting me edit the manicure there. And they were, you know, they got less excited as the process went on. And finally, you know, they would call me like every morning at 8:00, you know, to dun me for the, you know, $800 I owed them or whatever. And So I was basically stuck with the manicure. I was, waiting tables, trying to give a little bit to Broadway Video to pay off my debt to them. And I was also, what I did before I was a professional actor was I wrote for magazines. And one of my regular employers was a magazine called Omni, which was a science fiction magazine, nice glossy mag back in the 80s. And I would do arts columns for them. And so they called me up and said that MGM wanted me to, they were going to fly me out on a junket to cover the making of 2010, the Space Odyssey sequel. So that was cool. So I went out to Los Angeles and, they put me up and everything. And I had a buddy from high school who was working in Hollywood. He was already, he and his writing partner had written Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh, wow.
And so they were already like a hit writing duo. And so I went to dinner with my buddy. His name was Peter Seaman, actually Peter S. Seaman, yeah, believe it or not, and his wife. And I brought along a VHS copy of The Manicure. I know this is a long story, but
no, it's good.
Okay, so I had dinner with them at their house in the Valley, and then I said, "Hey, I got something to show you," and I put on the Chainsaw Manicure. And I ended up, they loved it. And my buddy Pete Seaman said, "Look, dude, my writing partner, and I have an office right across the hall from Tobe Hooper." Huh. And, for your listeners, he, that's the writer, director of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Mm-hmm. And so I said, "Well, geez." And my buddy said, "Look, if you let me have a copy of The Manicure, I'll walk it across the hall to him." So I said, "Sure, absolutely." So, he took the Manicure and he did what he said he was going to do. He took it to Tobe, and apparently Tobe watched The Manicure, all 5 minutes of it, and got so excited about it that he called in his producing partner. I guess Tobe was working on Poltergeist, and his producing partner was Steven Spielberg. And Steven came in and watched The Manicure and also loved it. And they especially loved, as it turned out, my portrayal of the hitchhiker. And not only did my buddy walk The Manicure into Tobe Hooper, but he also got Toby's home number from Toby's secretary or something. And he told me to give Tobe a call in about a week or something. So I got, I did my job on the set of 2010, and I flew back to New York, and I called Tobe Hooper. And miracle, I found out that he hardly ever answers his phone. So when I called him, he actually answered the phone. I didn't know that till later, but he answered the phone, and I identified myself. I said, "Hi, Tobe. I'm Bill Moseley. I'm the guy that did the Texas Chainsaw Manicure." And he went, "Oh, hey, Bill. Yeah, I love The Manicure." And I said, "Well, great. I'm glad to hear it." And he said, "Yeah, who was the person that did who played the hitchhiker in that?" I said, "Well, actually, that was me." And he goes, "Well," he said, "that was great, man." He said, "Look, man, if I ever do a sequel, I'll keep you in mind." And I went, "Whoa, that's awesome." He said, Yeah, stay in touch." So I remember, I think I sent him a postcard, and then never heard from him for the next couple of years. So I figured that was that was certainly a cold trail, but it was exciting. It felt, even though I was basically still in debt for the Manicure, that it was nice to have the man say nice things about it. Yeah. So and then it was like some cold dark night in early 1986, and the phone rang, and I could tell back then we didn't have, this was pre-cell phone, that you could kind of hear how you could hear basically if it was long distance or not. And there was a kind of a sizzle to the call. And so it was this guy saying his name was Kit Carson. And I think I had read maybe on page 6 in the New York Post, like some gossip stuff about Kit was like the hotshot writer, husband of Karen Black, and they had like a kid. And, so there was some kind of I'd heard the name before, and he told me that he wanted to get my address and send me a copy of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 script. And I said, geez, all right. So I gave him my address. I mean, I figured, geez, maybe this really is this guy. And sure enough, a week later, the script arrived. And he had told me to read it and, pay attention to the character of Chop Top. Excuse me. So I did and read it, and I thought it was a funny script. And I thought Chop Top's like a big part. I was surprised. And so I called him back and I said, I love the script. It's really funny. And I love Chop Top. And he goes, oh, I'm glad to hear that. We'll be in touch.
Huh.
And, I'm thinking I hung up and I'm thinking, well, hey, maybe they'll fly me out to LA. Maybe I'll get a free plane ticket back to LA. If I have to audition or anything, I'm not going to get the part. I'm not really a professional actor kind of thing. I could act, but I wasn't trying to make a living at it. And instead, about a couple of days after that, I get a call from the Canon Films legal department asking where should, do I want to negotiate the contract or do I have an agent?
Wow.
And I'm just going, what the hell is going on? This is completely surreal. And I had met an agent at a Christmas party, an agent from William Morris. So I called her up and said, would you negotiate a contract for me? And of course, she said, sure, it's free money. So she called him up and she called me back and said, well, I got some good news and some bad news. And I said, well, what's the good news? She goes, well, you got the part. I mean, I guess it's real. You got the part. I was like, wow, that's amazing. And she said, I said, what's the bad news? And she said, well, they're only going to pay you scale. And at the time, as a writer in New York, a freelance writer, I was probably averaging $250 to $300 a week. The only thing that kept me in town was I had a cheap apartment. And, I said, well, scale, geez, that doesn't sound good. How much is that? She said, I think it's about $1,600 a week. Well, that's pretty good. Nothing wrong with that. And then she said, the reason, she said, plus they want you to shave your head, and I went, yeah, okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's when she, said, yeah, so I got you $5,000. I'm going dude.
Thank you.
I was redeeming bottles and cans back then. $5,000 to shave my head? Shit, when do I start?
Were you able to play that cool, or were you clearly that was amazing for you?
Well, you know what? I just 99.9% of the inspiration for that character was Ed Neal. Ed Neal was such an amazing. The hitchhiker character, I mean, all of the characters in the original Chainsaw were pretty mind-blowing. But, to me, between the cook was amazing, especially when he starts poking the girl in the burlap bag with the stick when he's driving. Mm-hmm. I mean, just all that that was crazy. But Ed Neal, just the idea that, you had this character that actually is scary because he's cutting his own hand with a razor blade and just a crazy character, and that was so inspiring. Mm-hmm. So when I got, by the time they had shaved my head and I'd met Tom Savini and all of the psychos in the special effects makeup department, and I was pretty much, completely ready to go. Plus the first, God, it had to have been at least 10 days that I was supposed to work. I got up, it was a really early call time. It was 3.5 hours to get the chopped up makeup on. And then, the first 10 days, I think we were shooting out in, Prairie View, Texas. So it was about an hour's drive from where we were staying in Austin. Mm-hmm. And then we would sit, Jim Seedow, Bill Johnson, Leatherface, and I, we'd sit around playing gin rummy, waiting to be called. And, for the first 10 working days, he never got to us. So we were so revved up and ready to go when it finally was, okay, guys, you're up. It's like, oh, thank God. So I was so excited and ready that, I just, hit the ground running.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Being so familiar with the original movie, and then the second movie is totally different tone. It's much more comedic. What were your thoughts on that? Were you thought that was a good direction, or?
I had no sense of the whole movie. So I didn't really have any kind of, that was only something that I actually kind of wrapped my head around, long after I saw Chainsaw 2.
Yeah.
I had no real sense of, it was different or, funny versus scary or, anything. So I just, they just, pointed me in, one direction and just said action, and I just went for it.
No. When did you realize?
And Toby seemed to love what I was doing, and that was very encouraging.
When did you realize the movie really started to gain like a new audience? Because it seemed like it was. It's kind of come and gone. It's kind of like waves, I guess. I don't know if it's got anything to do with the evolution of mediums. Whether it's like. From, it was on the screen, then it was a VHS, then it was, a DVD, then it was download. I don't know if it was the advent of the internet. I really have no idea. I'm glad that people like it. I'm glad that it, it seems to have survived the test of time. Mm-hmm. It's so funny because recently, of course, the Shout Factory's put out some kind of new definitive Blu-ray of Chainsaw 2. I think NECA is coming out with a Chop Top figure in a month or two, whenever that's going to be. So but it's always been it always seems to have its fans. It's so funny because I do a bunch of these horror conventions, and I wouldn't say it's neck and neck. I still say Otis is still more in demand than Chop Top, but Chop Top's a pretty close second. Mm-hmm. Even though Otis is let's see, House of a Thousand Corpses was 2003, and Devil's Rejects was 2005. So Chop Top's had, a lot more time on the table, but, people just love Chop Top, and, it warms the cockles of my heart because I love Chop Top too. Uh-huh. In fact, when Rob Zombie wanted to hire me as Otis Driftwood, back in 2000, or, actually even, November of 99, what I thought was that he wanted basically, because I met Rob when I was, made up as Chop Top. I emceed a horror award show where he won his first award, I guess, back in October of 99 for Universal Studios over here in Burbank, California. A little award show called the Igor Awards. And I was the MC and handing out introducing people as Chop Top and handing out the little demon statuettes. And Rob won one, and he came out, and I handed, I was wearing a tuxedo dressed as Chop Top with my little plate and everything and my little coat hanger. And Rob came out, and like it freaked him out. He told me later that he thought he said, I think that guy's doing a decent Chop Top out there. And then when he came out, he like came on stage to get his award. It was like, holy shit, it's Chop Top. And so, about not even a month later, his manager called up and said that Rob's script, House of a Thousand Corpses, had been greenlit by Universal, and would I be interested in working on it? I went, yeah. So I thought that Rob actually wanted kind of his own version of Chop Top. Mm-hmm. But as it turned out, of course, Rob wanted somebody a little more, kind of serious and sexy in a way. I mean, serious, like seriously demented, but kind of a sexier character than Chop Top. So that was a big surprise to me, but, I'm glad he saw that in me. I did not. But as it turned out, to this day, Chop Top is,
hugely popular. And again, I guess it just goes in waves, or but I'm happy about it.
Yeah. Well, Ebony here in the chat room says she was wondering if Otis would date her. So apparently the sexy part did work.
Yeah, sure.
No,
She's a lovely girl, but
sight unseen. That's all right. Except that the first date has to be to Denny's.
I'm a fan of Denny's. Well, I'm not going.
Yeah, because even if we have nothing to talk about, we'll have we can get moons over Miami.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Your Grand Slam.
Yep.
Yeah. Good to
go. Yeah, right.
No, actually, kind of like from Texas Chainsaw Massacre to 2, it's a different vibe in the movie. Same with House of a Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Rejects. Your character's a lot different in both, even the same character. What was your thought process from playing Otis in Devil's Rejects as compared to the House of a Thousand Corpses? Do you look at it as a different character, or just a different side of that character?
Well, it took me. I finally kind of got Otis. Excuse me. Probably I don't know, between 6 and 8 weeks after we had finished shooting House of a Thousand Corpses. I with a lot of the roles that I do, I certainly read the script a bunch of times. I have a general idea, but sometimes there really just isn't rehearsal. There really isn't time to kind of, really be one with the character. And with House of a Thousand Corpses, I mean, it was a big job. It was a studio picture. There were some fantastic actors, Karen Black.
Someone's doing a lot of beeping.
Yeah, I don't know where that is.
I think maybe my ear is doing it.
Oh,
all right.
But anyway, I finally got the. I see. I'm getting an Amber Alert. That's what's happening.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't see anybody from where. I'm staring into the back of a parking lot of Park La Brea, so I don't think I'm going to see anybody necessarily getting carted off. But yeah, I mean, so I think I got after about 6 weeks after we were finished with House of a Thousand Corpses, kind of a general idea that we did. Rob wanted to do the Run Rabbit Run scene.
Mm-hmm.
And that I did in the makeup, special effects makeup shop of Wayne Toth, who did all the makeups for House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects, et cetera, et cetera. I think he's done just about every one of Rob's films. And so we went to his studio, and Rob, I got made up as Otis, and Rob gave me this little script he'd written about, hunting humans ain't nothing but nothing. They all run like scared little rabbits. Run, rabbit, run. Run, rabbit, run. And so we did that. And when I did that, that was actually when I felt Otis. It was like, oh, I get you. Now that doesn't mean that I wasn't that far off for most of the production, but that was when I really yes, that's Otis. So when we did Devil's Rejects, which I might add is the only time that I've ever actually done, it's the only time I've ever actually done the same character twice.
Oh, really?
I never did Chop Top again, really. I never did, any of the other characters. So I was pretty confident so that when we actually started shooting Devil's Rejects, I already kind of hit the ground running. In terms of the script, that's when I really thought that Rob was not just a good filmmaker, but a genius, because most horror sequels are kind of basically, especially in the 80s and the 90s, a lot of horror sequels are basically a rehash of the original.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess just so the producers can make a little more money and squeeze the fans a bit. But I'd never seen a sequel where it actually was not only a whole different story, but also kind of a whole different genre. Mm-hmm. I mean, I really thought of House of a Thousand Corpses as a classic old dark house horror movie. But Devil's Rejects was more like a violent crime picture, almost a Western. And there was something completely different about it. And that, to me, was, incredibly exciting. Plus, all of the characters were different. Baby didn't laugh. Mm-hmm. Captain Spaulding, for the most part, didn't have his clown makeup. And Otis went from being an albino with red flecked eyes to, one of the Allman Brothers. So it was a lot different, and Otis wasn't quite as crazy as he was in House of a Thousand Corpses. Just the whole thing was different. So that to me was really incredibly exciting.
I don't know if you have a preference, but that is my favorite of the two movies, Devil's Rejects. And,
say that again?
I don't know if you have a preference, but that's my favorite of the two movies, Devil's Rejects.
I don't really have a preference. There were such different experiences. House of a Thousand Corpses, we shot for the most part on the back lot of Universal Studios. And it's so funny because we were, the house we were using for the, for the Firefly house was right on the tram route. So that as we were shooting all these grisly scenes, trams full of tourists would go by. And in fact, we had with our production assistants, we had something called tram lock. Uh-huh. So when we were about ready to shoot, we'd have a PA down the cart path, holding up the trams while we got our scene, and then the trams would go by, filled with tourists with cameras. I mean, I remember one time I stepped out of the House of a Thousand Corpses wearing the skin of Mr. Willis and covered with blood, wearing, basically a costume of human flesh. And here goes the tram, and people are like, what the hell is that? You hear it going, and on your right, Rob Zombie's new movie. And, we'd be waving and smiling, covered with blood and gore. So, what was interesting was that the House of a Thousand Corpses was actually the chicken ranch in the Dolly Parton movie The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. Mm-hmm. That was the same house.
Now, there's been a lot of talk, rumblings about a possible third movie. Have you heard that? And would you be interested in being in it?
Yeah, I'm totally up for it. Mm-hmm. I have heard that, that I think it came out, Rob and Sherry and my girlfriend Lucinda and I and our daughter Marion had a really fun dinner end of January. And we got together here in LA, went to a nice vegan place, everybody had a lot of fun. And I think Rob, a couple of days after that, Rob posted, I guess, a picture of, the three rejects, like maybe the DVD cover art or whatever. And I think he said something like, would you like to see another movie with these characters in it? And, it ended up, I think that was Instagram or something, and it ended up with like 20,000 likes or something like that. Mm-hmm. So, I know that the interest is there. I knew that just from doing the horror conventions, et cetera, and, my own Instagrams and, different social media where just people are, dying for another one. And, I'm up for it. I know that, it's so funny because Rob, I think, didn't even really want to do a sequel to House of a Thousand Corpses. I think he probably just had he didn't really want to do the typical horror sequel thing. But I think Lionsgate gave him enough, money certainly, and freedom, creative freedom, so that he came up with The Devil's Rejects, which was pretty amazing. So I don't, he was reluctant to do I think sequel in general, although, of course he did Halloween 2. Maybe his reluctance has melted a bit over the years. But I think that he'd like to do it. I had always heard that there was, that Lionsgate Pictures owned sequel rights, and so I don't really know what all of the behind the scenes stuff is in terms of, rights and money and splits and, all the business side of that. I think that's really holding it back a lot more than the creative side.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was when I was in LA a few years ago. A friend works at Lionsgate, and he had me come in there and like a tour of what's going on. And there was still all kinds of Devil's Rejects and stuff all around the building.
I'll bet.
And there was like a poster that was never used. And it was, I mean, you could tell like it still meant a lot to the people who worked there.
Well, who got us? Who basically rescued us? Us meaning House of a Thousand Corpses. As you know, we we shot that movie in 2000 and on the back lot of Universal, et cetera. And when Rob showed, I don't know if it was a rough cut or a first look to some of the brass at Universal, they were horrified. They were saying like, this is not a Universal film. Kind of, they did not want to release it. And I don't know if that was also, maybe that was Columbine. I don't know what was going on then. Just there was some politics and violence in the movies and R-rated material to kids and whatever was going on. Universal just did not want to release the movie, and so we ended up. The good news is they gave Rob the I guess the rights to try to find another buyer for it, another distributor. So we wandered in the wilderness, as I call it, for about 3 years there, and almost had a deal at MGM, but that fell through. And then finally, a woman from Lionsgate, and a great buddy for a long time, a woman named Shayla Johnson, saw a screening of House of a Thousand Corpses, I think at like an early Monster Palooza out here or something. And she, went back to her boss, who was the head of movies at the time, a guy named Peter Block at Lionsgate. And she said, "You've got to get this movie." And so thanks to Shayla, Peter saw it and just said, "Oh my God, we've got to do it." So I guess Lionsgate, worked out a deal with Universal or whatever and put it out as a Lionsgate film. That took 3 years. And then when it opened, I think it made its money back in the opening weekend. So, that was like, because I think people had, I have still a bunch of old VHS tapes that, that came out, at 90, maybe early 2000, 2001, maybe, that still have trailers for House of a Thousand Corpses. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of fan interest, and I think a lot of the message boards and, websites and, Fangoria, Rue Morgue, a lot of magazines were very excited about this movie, and then it just, never came out. And so when it finally did, there was all this pent up excitement, and, a lot of people went to see it. And that then created, so much of a buzz that, of course, that begat Devil's Rejects. I think it also, because we made enough money, that also, encouraged Lionsgate, to put out Cabin Fever came out right after us, and Hostel. I mean, it kind of ushered in the golden age of Lionsgate horror, which lasted a long time, and and certainly included Devil's Rejects. Mm-hmm. I think the waning vestiges of that included Repo, the Genetic Opera, which I was also in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Midnight Meat Train. I mean, and then I think there was a changing of the guard. Yeah. And I think that Lionsgate, was less interested in horror. Maybe I don't really know what happened there, but I know Peter Block left the company, and But anyway, it was fun while it lasted.
Yeah, that was something I noticed when I was at Lionsgate. Was when he took me on a little tour. It was like the older people, the people that were there for years, like their offices was filled with horror stuff and toys, and then like the other section of it, which was newer, was just very like just office people that didn't have any cool things sitting on their desks.
Right, Hunger Games and, whatever.
Yeah. Let's see here. We got a lot of questions from Facebook. Dave Deadman wants to know, do you have any music projects on the horizon?
I do, and please thank you for asking. I'm about to do, I think in 2 weeks, I'm going to be in Indianapolis for something called Days of the Dead Horror Con. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that what we're doing there is a listening party. And we're doing a listening party for a project I did actually a year ago, March, down in Louisiana with Phil Anselmo of Pantera and that band Down. Mm-hmm. And, for a couple of years, I've known Phil and wanted to do, a music, just to get together and make some tunes. And Phil kept putting me off. It's kind of like saying that, to me, it's kind of like saying to Paul McCartney, hey, I'd love to have you, play bass a little bit. It's like, come on, buddy. But Phil, I kept bugging him, and Phil finally, relented and said, look, I got 4 days in March, down at my house in Louisiana. So I, cashed in some air miles and flew from LA to New Orleans and drove across Lake Pontchartrain train and hung out with Phil for 4 days. And we came up with 6 songs. I call it Phil and Bill. And he calls it Bill and Phil, but I say, look, man, you're the rock star. So it's Phil and Bill, songs of darkness and despair. And
nice.
We're actually having a listening party, in 2 weeks in Indianapolis. I hope it goes well.
That sounds really awesome, actually.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned Repo. Is there going to be a sequel to that?
I think that was another one that I think Lionsgate is probably in no great hurry for that. So what happened was Darren Bousman, who directed it, and Terrence Zadunich, who was the co-writer of Repo, along with a guy named Darren Smith. Darren Bousman and Terrence Zadunich came up with their own, Repo-like idea called The Devil's Carnival. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they put out the first Devil's Carnival a couple of years ago, and then very recently Devil's Carnival Part 2. I guess based on Aesop's fables, and hell and heaven, and very cool stuff. Very musical, and so that's I think what's kind of how Repo is kind of metamorphosed into the Devil's Carnival.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a big fan of those, so I hope to see another one.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, me too, because, I played the magician in the first 2. And I'm told that, when, I guess, and if there's a third installment of the Devil's Carnival, that the magician will actually get a song.
Nice.
Look about time.
I know, I'm very excited about it.
Let's see here. Joe Mazzella wants to know, in the Night of the Living Dead remake, did Tom Savini want you to play the Johnny Zombie as well? And if so, why didn't you?
It was so funny because when I got the part of Johnny, I had this great idea. I had read the script, and I had this great idea, and I said to Tom, I've got this idea. Why doesn't Johnny, once he's become a zombie, why doesn't he just kind of wander into the house and just, kind of walk toward Barbara. And there's Barbara, and even though she's, holding a gun, it's her brother coming toward her, and she's kind of paralyzed. Doesn't know what to do. And then, have Tony Todd come in and just see Johnny as some zombie that's wandered in. So Tony Todd then kind of nonchalantly lops off my head with a machete. And as my head is rolling on the floor, Barbara goes, "Johnny!" And you see my eyes look up, and you kind of wonder if that was really, recognition. Did he kind of unzombify there in the last seconds of his life, or what happened? And so I thought this was very creative and cool. And I remember telling it to Tom Savini, and Tom said, he said, it's a great idea, but there's no budget for that. so what they ended up doing, there wasn't even a budget to fly me back. Once I had done my Johnny job, my week-long Johnny job in Washington, Pennsylvania, they did not want to fly me back for any extra shooting of Zombie Johnny. So they basically just took my dummy that that fell against the tombstone and just threw it in the back of a truck, covered it with tarp.
At first, I thought you meant there was no.
So that was, and I think they misspelled my name in the credits. I mean, so it was like Tia Bell.
At first, I thought you meant there was no budget to fly you back home.
So there was that. I mean, I did get a round trip ticket. So that was good.
You're still there. Yeah. Annabelle, do you have a question from Facebook?
Yeah, there's a fine person named Jen R. Lewis, and she wants to ask a more general personal question. What is your top... It's always hard to answer these questions on the fly for me, but 5 movies, favorite 5 of all time, doesn't have to be horror, just some of your favorite movies and why you enjoy them so much.
Dang. Well, I mean, I will give you I'll give you my top 5 horror movies while I try to think of like my top 5 movies of all times. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, George Romero's original Night of the Living Dead, Sam Raimi's Evil Dead 2. I always like to give some love to a little black and white film from the 60s called Carnival of Souls.
Mm-hmm.
And what else do I like there? I love the original Dracula.
Cool.
So those are my top 5 horror movies today. I love, let's see, my top 5 movies of all time. Jeez, I don't know. I do love Starship Troopers, which is exactly like, necessarily like film school.
Yeah, not Citizen Kane.
Well, I do like Citizen Kane. I like Citizen Kane. I do like Gregory Peck in Moby Dick. Mm-hmm. I like that. I like It's a Wonderful Life.
Mm-hmm.
And let me come up with another one. What I thought was an incredibly good movie was Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven.
Yeah, it is a great movie.
Yeah, that's a great one.
It's an amazing movie.
Yeah.
And I love, Seven Samurai.
One of my all-time favorites.
Yep. And I love Ichi the Killer.
Yeah.
So I got a pretty wide.
Yeah, you're all over the place with this.
Good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. See here, we do have.
I hope that satisfies her.
I think it does. Yeah. We just started doing this last show with Caroline Williams. It's the Headless Hotline, and people can send in voice messages. So we've got some here for you. Hopefully, we'll.
Hey, this is Derek Neal. I'm calling. My question is for Bill. I was wondering if he had seen any kind of a cut of the unreleased Chainsaw Massacre film, All American Massacre, and what he thought of it, and if he thinks it should get any kind of a release in the future. Thank you, and I'll talk to everybody later.
That's a good question. The All American Massacre, the great, mystery movie. Mm-hmm. I can tell you that it started out, really it was supposed to be kind of a 10-minute, even if that, a 10-minute short film to show off William Hooper's, that's Toby's son, well, we call him Tony Hooper's special effects makeup, not makeup, but basically special effects, special graphic effects, computer graphics skills. And, the idea that it was basically, it started out with a Geraldo Rivera-like camera crew that goes into the mental penitentiary where Chop Top is being held. And it's 10 years after Chainsaw 2. So what I liked about the idea was that, in addition to everything else, that Chop Top now has a much bigger plate because, of course, he's been scratching for 10 more years.
That's a great
It's actually doing pretty good if it's not like his whole head already. I guess it grows back a little bit at a time.
And and then it's basically they take Chop Top out of his cell, they bring him to the warden's office, and then there's this interview, and the interview itself then sparks a flashback, and the flashback includes both Chop Top and the hitchhiker when they were before Chop Top went off to Vietnam, and there's some of the mayhem they were doing. What was interesting about the film was that or whatever what we shot of it was that at the time I was in a band called Cornbugs with the world's greatest guitar player Buckethead, and so Buckethead was they recruited Buckethead to play Leatherface, and Buckethead was more than happy to do it, but Buckethead's kind of skinny as a rail, so they gave him a fat suit. So Buckethead's in a fat suit with a Leatherface mask, and he's running around with a chainsaw. He also, if you go online and you go to All American Massacre, the only thing you'll find is you'll find like a little trailer, and the music, the score of the trailer, which is really about a minute and a half long, is Buckethead. He made that up, and so it's very exciting. I mean, the trailer itself is very exciting. I think what happened was that, again, I think it got too big for what it was intended to be. I know that Tony, I talked to him last week, and I know he's still working on it. So, someday, even though it's been, I think 20 years.
Oh, wow.
But someday, it may, it's been more like, I guess, 15 years. I think we did it in maybe 98 or 99. So, close to 20 years. I only hope it comes out. I think it was really a lot of fun to do. And, what its fate will be is more of a William Hooper question than a Bill Moseley question, but my fingers are crossed.
Yeah.
20 years would be a good time to do it. It could be like From the Vault 20 years later.
20 years in the making.
Exactly.
Is Texas Chainsaw Manicure available anywhere?
Right.
I have it on DVD. I was going to, it was funny because when Shout Factory was doing this, this brand new, Blu-ray package with all kinds of extras and everything. I talked to the guy Michael Felcher who was putting this thing together, and I offered him. I said, "Look, I got the Manicure. If you want to, include that." And I think what frightened off the company from using it is that when I shot it, it was very. It wasn't. I certainly didn't do it by the book in the sense that it was, 1984 and pretty casual. So, and I was the producer on it. I realized that I should have probably gotten releases from everybody that's in the movie, 5-minute short, and also clearance for the music we used. And since I did neither, no self-respecting company wants to touch it, insofar as it might trigger lawsuits, I guess. I don't know what could happen.
Yeah.
But when I was down at Phil Anselmo he does an annual metal music horror convention called Housecore, I guess horror and metal or whatever. And I put together a nice DVD copy of Chainsaw Manicure and showed that there. And in fact, that reminds me, I think what I'll do is I'll certainly bring along a copy of the Manicure and show it at the Days of the Dead Indianapolis.
That'd be awesome.
Could you run that as like an indie film at the various cons you go to and just... I don't know if that would have...
I guess.
That would be awesome.
I don't know. I don't know if you don't... I think if you don't charge people to, watch it, there can't really be any kind of, legal problems with it.
I would think they'd jump all over that. Any convention you're at, would be super
Yeah,
into
it's
that.
cool because then you definitely see like young Chop Top,
Yeah.
Chop Top in the making.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be sweet. I'd be in for that
And
one.
it's very funny. I mean, it's well shot. It was I think Ed Lockman shot it, and Ed is like now one of the most respected cameramen and in show business, and so it looks great, and I edited it. We did edit it at Broadway Video, even though we still owe them a couple $100.
They'll be coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
All right, here's another
Just
one.
don't give them my address.
It's another one from the Headless Hotline.
Hi, this is TJ calling again. I'm calling to ask a question of Bill Moseley. I wanted to ask him what his experience filming Silent Night, Deadly Night 3 was like, and if he watched the second movie and consciously decided to do something different than Eric Freeman. Anyway, talk to you guys later.
Hey. So what was the question again?
He'd asked about the experience filming Silent Night, Deadly Night 3, and if you watched the second one and tried to act differently than the character in the second film.
I didn't. To this day, I have not seen the second one. So I didn't really have I had no idea what I was doing. Basically, it was another, they said, look, you want the job or not? And I was, yeah, sure. Uh-huh. So I did not come to it with knowledge and respect for the first two, and for that I'm eternally ashamed.
No. It actually, I think that works really well with that series of films.
Okay, good, because the director of number 3 was Monty Hellman, and Monty Hellman was a famous American auteur. Did a movie with Warren Oates called The Cockfighter. I mean, he did I think Two-Lane Blacktop, or he did some really great American art films, and I think Monty was offered this this movie Silent Night, Deadly Night 3. And I think he was, he came at it with a very cerebral, kind of, wow, I'm going to, really bring a certain sensibility to, the American horror film, especially, part 3. And so Monty liked me for some reason, even though I think there's maybe 2 lines in the whole movie. I have only 2 lines, but, I guess he just liked my, demented look, or he liked the way I, shambled, in paper slippers. Uh-huh. It's so funny because, of course, by the time we see Ricky has, at the end of part 2, I guess, had his head shot up quite a bit. And so in part 3, I'm lying in bed in a hospital room with my head, it's blown away, but what they've managed to do is put a blinking plastic, I call it the brain cap, on my head, and you can see through the transparent plastic. You can see my brain, and there's actually some kind of orange liquid that's swirling around and a few blinking lights. So it's some kind of a brain machine, and what wakes me up out of this coma is I connect with a beautiful blind girl. And so what she sees, I see, and we have some kind of mind meld. And, all of that was wasted on me. I didn't really, play any of that, per se. I'm sorry to, disabuse you that thought I went deep on that one. But, the one thing I can say is that, I actually, one of the fears I had as an actor was that I would never be able to cry if there was some kind of a scene that required, deep emotion and tears, that I would just, never be able to make it happen. And, we were shooting one night, and I had left the hospital because I was, had this mind, connection with the blind girl. And she was headed to her grandma's house, outside of Los Angeles or whatever. And so I ended up getting there first. And to do so, I had been hitchhiking in a hospital gown. I had been picked up by Carlos Palomino, who was the recently retired middleweight boxing champion of the world, I guess looking to get into acting. And so he picks me up, and I kill him, I guess, quite quickly, and I take his windbreaker and his stocking cap. And so, we cut to Grandma's house, and I'm standing, and then the doorbell rings. She opens the door, and there I am standing in the front door, wearing a blue windbreaker and this stocking cap kind of, pulled over my brain cap. It just, it didn't look awesome. But anyway, she invites me in because she thinks I'm a homeless guy. And, and so she sits me down at the dinner table and says, "Oh, you must be hungry." And she goes in the kitchen and she, ladles me out a bowl of hot turkey soup. And she comes into the living room and she puts it down in front of me. And I thought I'd make an actor's choice since I'm kind of like a zombie type guy. So I picked up the soup spoon with my off hand. I'm a lefty, so I picked it up with my right hand. And I took a bite of the soup as they're filming. And the grandma, the very kindly woman, beautifully casted woman, standing over me smiling, and I'm, having a spoonful of turkey soup. And in that moment, I felt so warm and loved. I just, here's this wonderful grandmother, and I was in this, I just felt everything was so friendly and warm that, I just started to cry. And I was, tears were coming down my cheeks, and I heard Monty in the darkness go, "And cut." And I'm just there with these tears coming out of my eyes thinking, "Oh my God, this is so weird." And then all of a sudden the crew started to applaud.
Wow.
And I just was just thinking, "Oh my God, this is wild." So that was, certainly one of my many fond memories of Silent Night, Deadly Night 3.
That's very cool. Thanks for asking that, TJ. It was a good question.
Yep.
Hey, Bill, AJ Punk here. Just a quick question. Your characters are, very terrifying and scary to some people. Just curious, is there anything that actually scares you? I look forward to your answer, and have a great night.
What scares me?
Yeah.
You mean me, the civilian?
Yes, I believe so, yes.
Well, what happened in Orlando the other night scares the crap out of me.
Yeah.
I have kids, so of course I have all kinds of, 2 girls, so, I have lots of, parentally, emanated fears about them and, their safety, that kind of stuff. I mean, I would certainly, I've been watching commercials for Independence Day. Mm-hmm. And, it would really be scary if, I looked out the window one day and there was like a giant black ship, hovering over Los Angeles. Uh-huh. That would be scary. Mm-hmm. What also is scary is, people are pretty scary. Especially people that you think are, perfectly okay, and then all of a sudden they become like psychotic. So that's pretty scary. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I guess, certainly, getting some kind of incurable disease, I don't know. What else is scary is our we have a tortoise who's gotten bigger. He's probably got to be up to about 10 pounds. And Whoa. He just crawls around the apartment. And one of the things that I'm scared of, even though it hasn't happened yet, is that this Sunday I'm going to be at my desk or watching TV or something, and all of a sudden, you know, he's going to come over and bite off one of my toes. I'm scared about that.
Yeah, that's
trying to train him, but you never know. I mean, you know, the guy just did this, you know, be hungry and mistake it for like a little, I don't know, little mushroom or something.
You might have dropped some food on your toe, exactly. Troy here has a pet tortoise himself.
Yeah, she's only 1 pound, though, so I don't have to worry about
it. Oh, man, they do get big.
Yeah.
Ours is named Bob, although it could well be a female for all I know. I have no idea.
Well, we found out because ours is Hal, and then we discovered that it was a girl, and so now it's Hallie.
Yeah, well, that's nice.
Yeah. She's a margin.
Well, I have to roll pretty soon, so let's maybe another question or two. And
yeah, sounds good. I know it's a little over 15 minutes here. So I did want to ask, actually brought up Bob, was, you know, Bob Elmore, they have a special interview with him on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 Blu-ray that just came out that we've been talking about. So it's good to see that he's getting some recognition, because I know he was overlooked for a lot of years. And just your thoughts on Bob Elmore, working with him, and that he's being recognized for the movie again.
Well, you know, I think that, you know, Bob did do a great job. I think that it was kind of nonplussed Bill Johnson to, I think they really didn't want him to touch, you know, a working chainsaw, which I think was maybe erring a little on the side of caution. But I thought, you know, I thought Bob did a great job. I know that, you know, my stunt guy was a guy named Dan Berenger, and, you know, he did a good job. I think really when it comes right down to it, you know, we all, I think the best attitude you can have when you are making movies is that we all, you know, basically, you know, that we, you know, contribute to the overall, you know, spirit of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for me, that's what I try to do. I just try to support the production. And, you know, that's, you know, if you go in with that kind of an attitude, like everybody, you know, is, you know, maybe not equally important, but as important, certainly, you know, whether it's the, you know, the craft service person or the, you know, makeup, wardrobe, hair, you know, we all contribute to the overall, you know, quality of the movie. And I think that, you know, the stunt guys are awesome, especially on Chainsaw 2. I would have, you know, I think Bob did a great job. I remember watching him when he was spinning Caroline around, when Caroline was captured and she was wearing LG's face, and, you know, and Bob is, you know, Leatherface is kind of spinning her around, and then they started playing some weird calliope music. And I remember looking through like a crack in the door of the smoke room and seeing that going on, just thinking that is really creepy. And of course I'm, you know, completely made up as chopped up. So I'm no, you know, sight for sore eyes either, but yeah, I thought he did great. I love his, you know, I love Bob's, you know, when he wrecks the, you know, the radio station. I thought that was really cool.
He's got a nice little dance.
Yeah, he's got a great dance, but of course, you know, my favorite scene is you know, is Bill Johnson. Well, I mean, a bunch of them with Bill, but so I spent, you know, obviously, you know, a lot more time with Bill than I did with Bob, but you know, we basically all serve the production, so you know. So I think with Bob, you know, it seems, and I've seen that at horror conventions where, you know, different people are kind of claiming characters and stuff, and there's a bit of a turf war. But you know, I certainly, you know, if you have something like Jason or Michael Myers, you know, where a bunch of different people have played the character. I know with Leatherface, I don't know, there's, you know, 7 or 8 Leatherfaces. There's Dan Yeager, you know, from, you know, more recent one, R.A. Mihailoff. You know, there's Bill Johnson, Gunnar Hansen, you know, so there's, you know, we all contribute, and especially it ends up being, you know, getting, as I say, there's a bit of a, you know, kind of turf sense of like, well, I was, you know, number 3 and you're number 6. I remember actually thinking about that because when I was, there was some, I had some kind of, there was a bit of a snafu about, coming back as Otis for Devil's Rejects. And one of the things that I remember thinking was the last thing I wanted to do was to be, I'm the Otis from House of a Thousand Corpses. And, well, I'm the Otis from Devil's Rejects. Well, I'm the, you don't really want to get into that. So anyway, I don't know where that's kind of drifting off to, but I love Bob and, always glad to see him.
Yeah.
Kev, one last question. Unless Neil had something else. Good. But my question was, another general question is, when you get into acting and just as a person over the course of your life, who has ended up being your biggest influence in film as an actor? I learned a lot from working with James Remar on White Fang, a Disney movie back in the early 90s. I remember that.
So that was, he took me under his wing, even though I think I'm a little older than he is. But James Remar was a really good influence. He taught me the banana, which is when you're walking either away from or toward camera, you should always do it in a parabolic arc. Because if you walk straight forward or backwards, the camera really can't, doesn't have that depth. So you need to make this, this arc. It's called a banana, and so I'm very grateful for learning that one. I don't know. Certainly Ed Neal, was a great influence. I loved working with Karen Black on House of a Thousand Corpses. She was just really great. I think what happens is you end up, doing whatever it is you do. Basically, if you're paying attention to the story and the director, and you basically you don't really. There's not a wide range of interpretation necessarily. I think what's different for everybody is how you come to the character, how you show up for each scene. What it is, what's your mindset, and the kind of preparation you've done. For me, I just try to, I guess I just try to make it real. I read the script a bunch of times because that's really the best way to, get a general idea of the story, of the relationship to the other characters, of, what your motivation is for, any given scene. And I find that's, I do that best if I read the story a lot, so I really get it down. And, and if I just kind of meditate on, each scene, like what I'm doing, who I am, what I'm feeling, what I want, all that kind of stuff. The thing that I guess also irks me is when somebody is acting in a scene where they're really just trying to grandstand and kind of get, the best, looks, maybe their left side is better than their right and all that kind of, stuff. That to me is kind of annoying and distracting. I just like to, play the scene and just kind of be in it. And, that's really the fun of acting is when, on that rare occasion where you really just kind of, forget your Bill Moseley or whoever you are for the time being, and you're really just actually in the moment. I mean, that's the fun part. And and of course you got to, you can do that, but you also have to be mindful of your marks and everybody else's marks, and making sure that whatever you're doing is facing the camera, stuff like that. But I guess I don't know. I don't think I've really had a mentor per se. I always respect the directors. So I don't know if that answers the question.
It's very thorough. I think definitely.
Oh, good.
Yeah. We want to thank you for coming on. It's been a great time talking to you.
Well, thank you for having me. I do appreciate it. And I want to, again, wish my best to you all. And, let's do it again.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Oh, real quick. This is a real quick one. What are upcoming projects that people can be looking for?
It might not be quick. I think he's got quite a few.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I did look at your IMDb. It's insane.
Yeah, well, the IMDb, if 1 out of 10 of those works out, I think I'll be rich. Actually, my girlfriend Lucinda Jenny and I are going off next month to Luleå, Sweden, Luleå, to northern Sweden, and we're working on a short film called Fish, and that should be very exciting. It's kind of a creature feature, and the two of us are actually working on it.
Cool.
And so I'm very excited about that. And, I just did a movie for Corpsey Rhine, who is the publisher of a magazine called Girls and Corpses.
Yep.
And I was just in his movie Cynthia, which should be coming out one of these days. And I really had, I played, I can absolutely, guarantee the fans that this is the first time I've ever done a character like this. So I hope they'll support me
Very cool.
to the best of their ability.
Very cool. So let people, they should check out Silently Within Your Shadow, which you did the voice of, and Annabelle here did the poster art for.
I did.
Mm-hmm.
It's very cool.
Yes, thank you very much for that. And also, there's American Exorcist is coming out, and The Church, and there's a bunch of things. So I guess that's the best thing to do is to either keep checking the IMDb, or I seem to post a lot on Twitter. I think my Twitter name is @ChopTopMoseley. And I got a blue check, whatever that's called.
Oh, you're verified.
A tick. Yeah, I'm verified.
Whoa.
So it's Chop Top Moseley.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was hoping you weren't getting Lyme disease or something when you said a tick, but I see.
Well, I've had those too. Also, what's coming out in October is an incredible creature feature I did actually in Australia called Boar, Boar. About a giant killer pig in the outback, and got an incredible cast. It's the same director, Chris Sun, that I worked with on a movie called Charlie's Farm a couple of years ago. And his next one is called Boar, and according to his Facebook page, it's due out October 2016. So I think that's going to be really a lot of fun.
Does that boar steal a baby?
Does it steal a baby? I don't think so.
Just remember the dingo line. That was a long time.
Yes, but you know what? I think it's kind of an homage to Razorback.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is one of the great '80s Ozploitation movies.
Exactly. I think they're actually showing that at a theater in Boston coming up at the Coolidge.
Oh, at the Coolidge. Yeah, you might be familiar with that in Brookline. It's been around for a long time.
Well, I don't know it.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
In August, they're showing all animal attacks movies, and I think that's one of them. It's like Piranha 2 and Razorback and Grizzly and Crocodile or Alligator, one of the two.
We could probably ask you questions and talk forever, but we would love to have you back. So anytime you want to join us for whatever, definitely be in touch.
Well, that sounds great.
Awesome.
I will tell you too. I will close with. I finally got somebody to plug in my Blu-ray player. It turned out I had a defective cable. But my next two movies to watch, and I may have to wait until my girlfriend leaves because she doesn't really want to see either one. But one is called The Witch. I'm sure you guys have already seen The Witch.
Yeah.
And the other one is called The Hallow.
Mm-hmm. We saw both of those.
Yep.
Actually, at the same theater in Coolidge.
Yeah, The Hallow is the Irish one, right?
Yeah. So don't tell me about them because, I bought them both on Blu-ray off Amazon. I haven't figured out download yet, so I think when I do, I'm going to save a lot of money. That's what's upcoming for me.
Awesome. All right. Well, you can.
I loved The Nice Guys. I went to see that the other night. And I thought that was fantastic.
That was good.
I've seen that.
But that's off topic.
Mm-hmm. That's all right. I've heard a lot of good things about that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. All right.
Well, great. Well, thank you very much. Nice to be
Yeah.
on your show, and good luck to you all.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
so much, and you as well, Bill.
Thanks a ton, Bill.
All right. And remember, dog will hunt.
once again at Without Your Head. Huge thanks to Bill Moseley. That was just an awesome interview.
Yeah, that was a great time. Really enjoyed that. It was so tempting to go into detail about Boston. Be like, I don't know where that is. And then say, Neil, you know where that Chinese restaurant is where we got the great drinks? It's like right across the street. And they don't do movies. They have people dancing and blah, blah, blah. It's hard for me to not go off about Boston. Yeah. Troy, you've got to know where it is.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's
now I'm doing it now.
Maybe that's a theater he used to go to because he said it was in that area. Now it's just a Chinese restaurant because it is an old theater.
No, the theater itself is that's not it. The theater is still operational, but they do like artsy-fartsy dancing and stuff like that.
I see. Also, big thanks to the Ghoul Show, which is our Artist of the Month here this month. And he actually just launched his own record label, Playground Records, and that's facebook.com/Playground Records. And we'll have the link up on the website, so give that some love. It's good times.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm. He's a long-time supporter of the show and contributor. He sent a lot of music in for various projects and has always offered to do, like, if we need original music. So Kyle Ghoul is a good man from the Ghoul Show.
Troy's idea of hell.
No. We'll do that another time. Because that'll be a long kind of tale.
Yeah.
We don't have too much time before our next guest.
We'll have Monica
Demes. You should all do different versions of hell. Oh, you know what we should do? I know we were going to do the drink, but do you want to... I don't know if you'll have time after the next interview with Monica. Do you say your name, Demes? Demes?
I believe.
We need to do our awards.
Yeah, that's very true. We'll do that now if you'd like.
Sure.
Okay.
These are our personal choice awards for the Karloffs.
And these will be the final ones, and then we are complete.
Exactly.
Do you want me to start off? Because I had mine already.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I thought about it, looked at the list. Everybody was so awesome. All the guests we had. I decided to go with a guest. Just because that's always such a nice personal thing for us. And I had to go with a man that came on for the second time and has sold 6 million books worldwide, and Mr. F. Paul Wilson.
Wow.
My personal choice.
Wow. Was it just because you've read all these books, or was it something striking about the interview?
I think a combination. Like, just the fact that he came on again, I thought was really cool of him. You know, because he's always a guy that's so busy. He's got like a ton of different jazz going on. And, you know, he's 70 years old now. And,
wow.
And just like a personal just hero of mine. Like, I love all his books. It's just one of those guys I never thought we'd have the chance to, like, interview. And just an all-around cool guy. I just love Wilson.
Very cool.
Neilio?
All right. Well, I named my award, and it was Without Your Head Contributor of the Year, and it goes to a guy that there's a lot of great people in the Without Your Head community who's done a lot for the show, and one guy who's really gone above and beyond to really help out with the show, and so my award is going to Mr. Mike Terry.
Yeah.
Nice. Uber fan, Mike Terry.
When you started talking about contributor and you went on a little bit, I'm like, that's Mike Terry.
Yes,
right.
Mr. Mike Terry.
Annabelle?
Congratulations.
Oh, I'm sorry, Nick.
No, it's good.
So mine ended up being an interview, and I didn't know if this would work because it's not a podcast interview. So I have a podcast interview if that would be better. But
whatever you think. These are our own, our host choice, so these can be anything.
Then it will have to be Mr. Angus Scrim.
Oh,
nice.
Because that was, not even because he passed away and all that, but it was a very wonderful, touching interview. And just what a wonderful guy. And his personality was so positive and appreciative and of all the fans and his experience, and he just seemed to be so happy to be doing these things and to be out talking with everybody, and just a genuinely decent person. He was and humble, very humble. He'd talk about, this is all great this weekend, and then I'm going to go back home and there's my little dog, and that's life. But it was excellent. He's just got, he won a Grammy. He's got all these stories. He was talking about being like a little kid and going with his mom and his sister to their little local theater, which was he was an old guy, and they would constantly run the movies. So there'd be like 2 or 3 movies, and they wouldn't have show times. So you just pay for your ticket and walk in and maybe be in the middle of a movie. And maybe you're waiting to see the movie you want. And just neat, just wonderful little anecdotes. And it was wonderful. It was so lovely. Really, really great guy. It's I'm not always great.
I've listened to a few times. I love that one.
I'm definitely not always best about being appreciative and having that kind of perspective. And when I was sitting there listening to him, it was really like, man, I need to take a cue from this guy, because he just gets it.
Definitely had his shit together. I remember, listening and watching that one, and just with a big grin on my face. It just made me smile. The guy one of the few people that actually scared me as a young person, and now he makes me smile.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Great call.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, Monica is ready. Do you want to try this quickly, the drink, or do you want to save it for next week?
No, let's save it. We don't have to keep her on hold forever.
Let's see here. We're going to go to break real quick. We'll be right back with Monica Demes, and I've heard that she may have a surprise for us.
Ooh.
back here once again at Without Your Head, and we're joined by, she's actually missing a great meal right now to talk to us, so we're feeling pretty bad. But we have Monica Demes on the line, writer-director of Lilith's Awakening.
Hi, guys. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah, it's great to hear from you.
Yeah, great to have you.
Now, you just showed the movie tonight?
No, I showed the movie on Saturday 11th, and actually I'm in Fairfield, and I got an airplane, and I'm in Fairfield, Iowa, where I shot the film.
Oh.
So how did the premiere go Saturday?
I arrived 2 hours ago here.
Okay.
Wow.
So how did the premiere go on Saturday?
It was great. We had this amazing party before where they served red drinks to everybody, so we drank a lot.
Nice.
It was pretty fun. There was a soprano singing Ave Maria from Bach.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she was all bloody. And,
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and
tremendous.
It got super beautiful, and then we all went to the screening. The only thing is that the screening started around 1 a.m.
Jeez.
So it was pretty late, I must say. Like in the end, in the Q&A, after the film was over, like 2:30 in the morning, people were really like zombies in the end. Like,
yeah, you're not allowed to fall asleep at your own premiere. You can't do that.
Oh, God, it was super late, but it was amazing. It was amazing to premiere at the Chinese. It was amazing to be there with these people. It was amazing, yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So I think we all absolutely love this movie.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great to hear it.
And real quick, for people who aren't aware of it yet, could you give them like a brief idea of what the movie's about?
The film is about a woman, a repressed woman who works in a gas station. She connects with her dark side and she experiences her wildest fantasies.
They're very dark.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit, yeah.
But it's fun.
It is. It is. For me, it is, and for Lucy, I think it's fun as well. I don't know if Jonathan would say the same.
No.
Yeah, we don't care about the rest of them, though. We just care about Lucy.
Yeah. What was the inspiration for the character, for the story?
I was here in Fairfield, in this little town. It was winter, and I was meditating a lot to find the story. And I came to the scene, one of the scenes of the film, where Art is driving his car, and he sees this beautiful woman, mysterious, walking on the street. He gives her a ride, and he takes her to a dark place, and he tries to rape her. Mm-hmm. And he ends up in a bad situation after he does that. And after I wrote the scene, it was through intuition a little bit. So after I wrote the scene, I asked myself, what's the scene about and why did I write that scene? And then I realized I was fed up with seeing films, especially horror films where women are victims.
Yeah.
So I started to think, what if something really bad happens to the rapist instead? So with that seed, the whole screenplay of Lilith's Awakening was written. And as I was in Iowa and the winter was really intense, the distances were far, the places were empty, you have a lot of churches here. It was the perfect place to do a vampire story, you know? All the times from Queen Victoria were still a little bit alive here. So it was, I thought it was a good idea to bring it back with a kind of a feminist point of view.
But it's not a beat you over the head feminist movie. It's just a good story that, you know, it's just... It's an amazing story with female empowerment, but it never feels like preachy.
Yes, more like that, yes.
Yeah. But I know you don't have a long time, and I really did want to say that there's something that I really noticed that's wonderful in the film is the silences of the characters. Where you have these spaces where they're not saying anything, but you can see and use your intuition to know exactly where they're at, and they play the emotions so well. And I just love that. It's something a lot of films now, even some independent movies, if it's not constant visually stunning action, it's talking. And this is, you know, you've got some shots that are beautiful, but they're not necessarily over the top. And it's wonderful. It lets you think.
What do I think?
Those scenes let the audience think about what's happening, and it's not just pushed. It's implied what's going on, and you can just sit there and imagine what's happening with each character. Like the car scene is very, you know, it's just these two people looking at each other, and it's very... You know, it's so dramatic, and you're just, what's going to happen? And she's so intense, and you know that something's going to happen. It's wonderful.
Thank you. I'm glad it worked. Yeah, it was a lot of work.
What was it? Was it always the decision to make the movie in black and white?
Yeah. I'm actually with the DP by my side. Would you like to hear what he says about that? It's Gregor Korzal.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah? Okay. Gregor, please talk back. Right.
Hello. This is Gregor Korzal speaking. I'm the DP of Lilith's Awakening.
That's good to hear from you. So, yeah, we just asked her about the decision to film the movie in black and white.
Well, you know, the movie Lilith's Awakening is a kind of a dream, but there are also some colors in the movie, so we can't be quite sure what's real, what's not real, what's in her mind, and what's in the mind of the people who are watching this movie. But horror and a story like it's Lilith's Awakening, it was just a call, you know, I think from the very beginning. Let's just keep these lights.
And when you talk about the use of color, I think the color, not only, you know, is it the bloods and stuff, but it seems like the color's used to signify like a life, I think, in the movie.
Exactly that. That was the point. That was the point, yeah. That's it. Some things in the movies are very simple, and that's it.
Let me tell him something about the black and white.
Okay.
Also, I want to say, like, I was with Gregor 3 months looking Fairfield with my iPhone and seeing everything in black and white before we started shooting. I always knew the film was going to be in black and white because black and white is a declaration of intentions of the filmmaker. When you see a film in black and white, you know that's not reality. Everything is going to happen there. It's a fairy tale. It's a fantasy. So I knew since the beginning that it had to be like that. Also, it gives the film a sense of timeless. Although we know it now, we see that old gas station in the middle of nowhere, and the black and white gives it to that gas station a sense of being lost in time and space, because that's exactly how Lucy, the protagonist, feels inside. Mm-hmm. She's lost in time and space, wasting her time and wasting her life in the middle of nowhere. So it had to be in black and white.
Also, when the DP had mentioned the movie feeling like a dream, and I thought there was a particular scene near the end. I don't want to give the movie away, but it really feels like a dream because not only the pacing of the movie, but there's kind of like a soft fuzziness in this scene, and then it quickly turns to like it's very sharp instead of like, and it's almost like it breaks from the dream, and now you're in reality. And I thought that was a really powerful moment in the movie.
Thank you. Also, if you realize the whole film is from Lucy's perspective, so I think that allows a lot of art house, you know? It allows us to play a lot with what's going on in her mind about the world that surrounds her.
I have a question about the program. How did you decide to choose this David Lynch Master's program? And what kind of impact did it have on your filmmaking?
In my case, I was sent a link to a competition of short films. The short films could only have until 5 minutes. And I had a little short of 4 minutes called Halloween.
It's a little animated one, isn't it?
Yeah. So I sent that short film, and they sent it to David Lynch. He liked it, and they gave me an award, an economical award, financial award to shoot a project in Iowa. And that's how I decided to come here. I had started my company in Brazil. We were shooting a documentary at the time about spiritual healing. It was a documentary between Spain and Brazil, and I waited a little bit, like 6 months, until we could finish the project, and then I came to Fairfield.
Wow.
Yep. Are you
the impact has in my filmmaking? The second question, the impact it has in my filmmaking. I think it was the first time I was using transcendental meditation to create, and it allowed me in the screenplay to be very free. More free than ever, because instead of starting by reason, which was the natural process, like, for example, you're doing a film about ambition. No, you choose a theme, ambition, and then you say everything that's going to be good about ambition and everything that's going to be bad, and the character is going to make a decision at some point. Usually you build it like that. And that in this case, using transcendental meditation, I was waiting until a scene or an image to come to my mind, and after I wrote that scene, I would ask myself, what's the scene about? So for me, it worked like a kind of a way to connect with the place that I was, and from a freer way to write. Was I clear?
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like that's an art experience when you just have whatever's going on in your mind for your imagination, run with it, and then reflect on it. I think I draw and do different kinds of art, and that's always the best. Like, I'll do projects for people and things like that, but when stuff just comes out of my brain and then I can reflect on it, that's the stuff that's really meaningful to me.
Yeah, and isn't it amazing that somehow it comes from, I think you connect with something that is around in the universe. Somehow, when you expose yourself to meditation, you're connecting to a point where it's not reason and it's not reality, and it's just darkness. And from that darkness, something comes, right? And you bring it to this world. And that's the magic of using transcendental meditation, in my opinion.
No, will you use that same technique in your future projects?
This is Bill Johnson, and you're listening to WithoutYourHead.com. Feed your head.
So I think we left off at your future use of transcendental meditation in your work.
Yeah, I'm working on a new project now, a thriller about a girl who is in a music conservatory, and she's obsessed with another girl there. And there is a sound hunting her. And the more the sound evolves in her head, the more she connects with a murder that happened in the past.
Were you always a vampire fan? Because there's a lot of, callbacks to like the classic vampire movies, like the place is called Helsing and Renfield, yeah. And I even thought there's a really cool shot of Lilith that really reminds me of kind of the classic Bela Lugosi like pose where she's got her hands out. And
Yeah, since I was a little girl, I used to lock myself with my grandmother in a room watching horror films, and my favorites were vampire films. Of course, my parents wouldn't allow it because I was like 3 years old, but my grandma allowed me anything. And I grew up with those images in my head. And when you are a little girl, you don't understand what's going on there. You know that the vampire cannot bite you, because if they bite you, you will never see your family again. And you don't want to waste your mom or your dad when you are like 3 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
Then as you grow up and you understand that what the director really tells the actors is that when the vampire bites you, you pretend you have an orgasm. Then you understand why it looked so good when they were beaten, although you didn't, right? You didn't know what the hell was going on. And it always fascinated me that the moment of the bite, that they would give their life away because of that moment of eternal pleasure. And then from that day on, the whole life they have would change.
Mm-hmm. So what were some of your favorite vampire movies?
My favorite vampire movie is called Nadja. It's David Lynch was the executive producer, and it was from a director from New York that only directed this film. It's a black and white film, as I don't know if you guys seen it.
No. How do you spell this?
Nadja is Nadja.
Well, I'm going to seek it out.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
The photography is amazing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm seeing images from it on the Google search, and it looks beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I must say I love The Hunger as well, although it's very from the 90s.
Mm-hmm. I love that. The David Bowie one?
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So beautiful. It's like pure music.
Yeah, and it's got Peter Murphy in the beginning, so how can you go wrong? I do love that movie. It's such a unique vampire story. It's so different. The ending is so intense and incredible. You know, it's like a story of, how do you put it?
I think for me, they make a parallel of how passion works in our life.
Mm-hmm.
Passion is the vampire. Like you want to, when you are, because there is a difference between loving someone and being in love with someone.
Yeah.
I think when you are in love, you're more selfish. Like you want that person just for you, and you want to put her in a place that's untouchable, just like Catherine Deneuve does, no? And the thing about her is that she goes collecting, no? The lover.
What was how much did David Lynch? They say he mentored you stuff, but how much impact did he have in the actual movie?
He had great impact in the story itself, but he didn't participate in anything of the production of the film. It was all towards the story. Yeah. I was blocked in a point when I was writing the story, and I started writing a story and I got blocked. I started writing a second version and I got blocked again, and I started writing a third story that I thought it was different from the second and the first. And it was the same story again, but with different characters. So I was always getting stuck on the same point. And I took some advice with him. And that was the point when he said, look, imagination doesn't exist. You're connecting with something in the universe, an idea. And it's normal that it comes back again and again. And you're just looking for the right characters for the story to manifest itself in real life. But why are you getting stuck? And then he said, you're lying. Somewhere in the story, you're lying. And then I went back home and I was thinking, where the hell am I lying? Why am I doing this? And then I realized that I was trying to do a story with a male protagonist. So my story didn't have any sense because it was supposed to be a woman's story. And in the moment that I changed Lucy to be the protagonist, the woman, everything changed and made sense.
Wow. So is this kind of like divine inspiration? Like if you think about great artists over time, that they're just channeling whatever it is that exists out there. Is that the kind of idea?
I think so. No, he talked in a very ethereal way, but I think that's what he means. But it's not only channeling, because if it was only channeling, you wouldn't use your own brain to find the right characters. It's like you connect with the idea, and then you have to refine it using your mind to bring it to the world through your own knowledge, through, right, your own perspective. And
so it's like communicating with an animal, but you're communicating with the universe, where there's two different ways of thinking, but you understand each other. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think you're kind of right, because haven't you had the impression that some films are produced and they are very close to each other and they are very similar, and they're like 1 year of difference, 6 months, and they were produced at the same time? For me, it's like the creator is connected with the same idea in different parts of the world, and they do completely different things in the end, but the idea is the same.
Definitely, yeah.
Did he get a chance to see the finished movie, and did he tell you what he thought of it?
He never saw the film, and I would love that he would see the film, but we don't know if that's going to happen.
Well, I hope that he does. So I know you've got the dinner going on here. How can people find out about Lilith's Awakening? How can they see it right now? Will it eventually be on DVD?
Lilith's Awakening will come back in festivals in September and October, probably in Australia and Canada. And we are looking for distribution now. So it will probably come and be available next year. Only we have to finish the circuit of festivals first.
Yeah. Well, now, was the first airing nerve-wracking for you at all? To watch your movie with a crowd of people?
Actually, we had done a private screening here in Fairfield, only for the people who worked in the film and people who landed her houses or people we rented the gas station, and we had a full packed theater, so we could perceive a little bit of the reactions before the official world premiere, and it was great. It was great to be able to show it back to the people what they gave. It was a great feeling.
Mm-hmm. And so far, what's the feedback for the movie been?
It's like this. I have 5 amazing reviews about the film. I have like 30 reviews that say very good stuff about the film, and they said, but there is one thing that I don't like. And I have 2 bad reviews that people that hated the film.
Wow.
Because they say it's not reality.
Oh, come on.
Reality doesn't interest me, I'm not a realistic director, but that's just not their kind of film.
Yeah. Well, that's not fair, because like Neil and I do reviews, and Troy does too, but I know when something is something I just don't like. And I might say, these are the things I don't like, but it's not my kind of movie. So it's almost invalid for me to review it for an audience that I know would really enjoy it. It's just not for me. So I don't know.
Yeah, there's a difference between personal taste.
There is a making of The Shining that I love with Kubrick. And there is a scene in this making of where Jack Nicholson is like, but Kubrick, this is not how I would do it in real life. Reality is not like this. And then Kubrick gave the perfect answer. He said, reality is not art. Art goes beyond reality. And since that, I feel free to do whatever I want.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot more fun to not feel limited by those kinds of things. It's the same, when, like I was saying earlier, I do paintings and drawings and stuff, and you just let it happen, it's just so much more fulfilling and enjoyable.
But I must say, I stay with the good stuff, you know. The good reviews were amazing and beyond my expectations. I really loved it. And I have to thank all these people who wrote it.
Yeah.
It's so good when you expose yourself, because that is a big part of you that you're revealing to the world when you make a work that comes from your soul and your heart. Because it could be like a package, no? A very Hollywoodian film, and it could have nothing to do with you. But when you really expose yourself, of course there are going to be people who are going to hate, and there's going to be people who are going to adore it. But the good thing is that you did it. You had the thrill to go beyond everything and expose yourself, and that's it. And for that, I'm so thankful.
What a great perspective.
Yeah. We want to let you get back to your dinner here before it gets cold. But it's been a great time talking to you.
Hey guys, thank you so much. You guys were great. Thank you so much for this video.
Thank you very much. And
we look great to have you.
And definitely look forward to your future projects.
Yeah, come back and talk about them anytime.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
You're welcome.